Hi everyone, it's Brutalism Strength Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Idols album, Brutalism. This is the debut full-length album from UK punk rock outfit Idols. And this thing is so electrifying, it's so enraged, it's so raw and noisy and overwhelming. The noise rock fans will be into it, the post-punk fans will be into it, people who like their music with a lot of mayhem, people who are into albums like maybe Ice Age's You're Nothing will probably get something out of this too. By comparison, Idol's guitar work isn't quite as unruly. It's a little more tight and driving and intense, but they use that extra helping of actual musicianship to achieve a similarly overwhelming feeling. It's reaching a boiling point. It's at maximum capacity. The band is either doing that or they are sculpting these very groovy, very jerky rhythms and bass lines and guitar leads that sound like the soundtrack to the most violent dance floor on the planet, over which the frontman Joe Talbot delivers these incredible vocals, which could almost rival that of some of the UK punk movement's most notorious singers like Marky Smith or Steve Ignorant, maybe even Johnny Rotten, which I definitely get a vibe of him, an influence from him off of the track Exeter. Nothing ever happens! But Talbot's vocals are so raspy, they're so guttural, it sounds like the guy gargles engine coolant for breakfast every morning. And his delivery a lot of the time is so snarky that it burns, so tongue-in-cheek that he has just punched a hole through his cheek. Like when he's singing on the song Well Done, where he goes through a series of repetitious phrases like, why don't you get a degree? Even Tarquin has a degree. Even Mary Berry has a degree. Yes, name-checking Mary Berry, the English food writer for some reason. He goes on to reframe these same phrases with reggae and football, I guess in a way to lampoon the idea of pressuring other people into liking this really bad lowest common denominator entertainment or whatever. I'm not entirely sure what the intended target is because it's just like a shotgun blast of sarcasm that's kind of spraying in so many different directions. But the album is full of all these hilarious and socially sharp and very grim and sobering mantras. Like on the track Stendhal Syndrome, for example, which I guess is a real condition where people suffering from it react in really extreme ways to paintings. The band turns this into an opportunity to tear down people who react in really dumb and uncultured ways to art that they don't understand. Opening the track up with, did you see that painting Rothko did? It looks like it was painted by a 2-year-old kid. Set against these blistering, wild guitars. And an insanely tight drum beat that I'm amazed that the pace keeps up for the entirety of the track. You know, the stupid ignorance toward art they're making fun of on this track, it reminds me of someone. Or on the track Mother, where we hear this repetition of the phrase, my mother worked 15 hours 5 days a week, 16 hours 6 days a week, 17 hours 7 days a week. And also the best way to scare a Tory is to read and get rich, talking about the right side of Britain's political spectrum. Later in the track, the band makes a statement about sexual violence, violence against women, which sort of brings a very grim context to the motherfucker chorus that has been repeating up until this point. I mean this in the nicest way possible, but John Talbot's vocals are nasty and disgusting, which makes the nasty and disgusting realities that he sings about sound even more nasty and disgusting. But not so nasty that he can't pull off a sung hook here and there on this album, like on the track Heel, or Date Night, or the very powerful Faith in the City, where he's singing about these people who he knows who are on hard times, suffering from cancer, having a hard time finding a job, but they find refuge in religion, in their faith in God. Not entirely sure if he is using sarcasm here as well. There wasn't anything in the lyrics that sounded like he was trying to tear these people down directly in like in a really obvious way, but nearly everything that comes out of this dude's mouth sounds like, you know, it's sour, it's mean. It kind of throws my sincerity meter off because I don't know when exactly he's being heartfelt. The very catchy 1049 GOTHO is the kind of speedy and bright melodic melodic hardcore that I would have expected some California band to come out with in the 90s, but they sort of put their own little fun, grim, concrete UK post-punk spin on it. The track is anthemic, and way more versatility in this track listing than I was expecting, considering how the start of this thing goes off like gangbusters. Though later the band does attempt to pull together this very dreary, low-key closer with mostly just vocals and a piano in the background. I wish this track had more of a melody to speak of, more of a structure to speak of. It just kind of seems like a piano rant. I appreciate that it's different than any other track in the track listing, but it's kind of a dud. Still though, the many spots of melodic sweetness on this record not only add memorability to these tracks, but they kind of take the edge off of just how gruff these tracks are. Sometimes the band flirts with the meaning or the intent of a particular song rather than just kind of coming out and saying what they mean right in your face, even though the tone of this music very much comes off like that. Sort of like on the song White Privilege, where we get a lot of funny one-liners. One about how many optimists does it change a light bulb? None, because they ask their butler to change it. This always poor, never bored mantra, and also this mention of this girl having 1 miscarriage, 2 abortions, a degree, and 7 jobs. I'm not entirely sure what the intended target is of this track with such a hot button title. I guess it's sort of open to interpretation, or I guess another example of a track sort of being more of a shotgun blast than it is like a laser pointed critique of a particular thing. Even though the track is titled White Privilege, I imagine in a way that must have at least served as the inspiration for this song. And I feel like I haven't talked about the instrumentation of this album enough. I mean, while it is pretty meat and potatoes, the performances on this thing are invigorating. The guitars, the bass, and the drum are so raw, and the performances are just so tight. They're just so goddamn they're muscular, they're toned. But yeah, there's also enough sonic mayhem happening on with a lot of guitar freakouts and distortions and squeals and to keep things sounding like, you know, not just a plain Jane punk album, but like a whirlwind of insanity. All that being said, this is a great rock album, in my opinion. It's not entirely new for the style or the genre, but I do think these guys already have a lot going for them in terms of good performances, good vocals, interesting lyrics, good guitar work. I like how fat and dense the production is. There's just enough versatility to keep this 13-track, 41-minute track listing pretty interesting. And it sounds like these guys have enough fire in their bellies to push themselves even further for another record too. Now there are a few tracks on this thing that pale in comparison to others, like Divide and Conquer, which is just really slow and lumbering. Doesn't really stick out to me as a highlight in the track listing here. Seems kind of like the pacing is off considering how many snappy barn burners there are on this thing. And Rachel Koo and Benzocaine, while there are elements of these songs that I like, they seem kind of like just a reiteration of the formulas that the band had been playing with up until this point. They don't really add anything to the track list that the previous tracks didn't already, in my opinion. Combining this with the closer, I guess the album could have, you know, ended a bit stronger. Still though, I am feeling a light 8 on this record. If you're looking for a hard-hitting, heavy, and very in-your-face and lyrically intriguing punk record, don't let this thing slip by you. Don't let it. Don't let it slip by you. Make sure you give it a listen. And we are going to transition. Have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best. You're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe. And please don't die, because then you can't watch more reviews, dog. Idols. Brutalism. Check out some of the links next to my head. Other albums I think you should probably hear. Subscribe to the channel. Official website too. Forever.